What if the walls around you are not as solid as they seem? What if the life you are living, the rules you follow, the limits you accept are just a story that someone else told you? A story you started telling yourself. What if your powerlessness is an illusion you agreed to? And what if you could just stop agreeing? What if you could tell a different story and the world would have no choice but to listen? Number 15, what if magic wasn't about wands and robes? Austin Osman Spare, the grandfather of this entire system, was a celebrated art prodigy in London in the early 1900s before he turned his back on the art world to pursue his own strange path. The term Chaos Magick wasn't even coined until the 1970s, making it one of the newest and most unconventional approaches to magic in history. Its most famous and misunderstood motto is, "Nothing is true, everything is permitted." This phrase was not invented by magicians, but was adopted from the novel Alamut by Vladimir Bartol, who attributed it to Hassan-i Saba, leader of the historical Order of Assassins. So, let's get this out of the way first. Chaos Magick is not about dusty old books written in Latin. It's not about secret societies with elaborate initiation rites that have been passed down for centuries. It's not about worshipping ancient gods or demons in some prescribed dogmatic way. You don't need a special wand, a consecrated dagger, or a robe spun from moonlight and unicorn hair. It's an approach, a method, a mindset. Think of it like a programming language for reality. Other magical systems like Thelema or the Golden Dawn are like specific software applications. They have their own user interface, their own rules, their own set of commands. They work, but only within their own framework. Chaos Magick is the underlying code. It's the understanding that you can write your own applications. You can use the interface from one program, the commands from another, and write a few new lines of code yourself to get the job you need done. The core idea is brutally simple. Belief is a tool. It's not a sacred, unchangeable part of who you are. It's a lens you can use to focus your intent and change the world around you. The universe in this model doesn't really care what you believe. It only cares about the intensity and focus of that belief. The chaos in Chaos Magick doesn't mean randomness or disorder. It refers to the primal, unformed potential from which all things arise. It's the blank canvas. Your belief is the paintbrush. This is why it's so confusing to people who are used to traditional religion or magic. A chaos magician might one day perform a ritual using the archangels from Christian lore. The next day, they might call upon a Sumerian goddess. The weekend after, they could be working with characters from a comic book. They are not converting to Christianity, or becoming a Sumerian pagan, or starting a religion based on superheroes. They are simply picking up a belief system that has a certain power, a certain emotional resonance, and using it as a tool for a specific job. Once the job is done, the tool goes back in the toolbox. This is the fundamental break from tradition. It strips away all the dogma, all the morality, all the history, and looks at what is left. What is the engine that makes magic work? The answer, according to Chaos Magick, is your own consciousness. Your own belief, your own intent, everything else is just window dressing. It might be beautiful, helpful, inspiring window dressing. But it's not necessary. The power isn't in the ancient words or the specific symbols. The power is in you, and your ability to convince yourself, at the deepest level, that what you want to happen will happen. It's the ultimate statement of personal responsibility. There are no gods to blame, no demons to fear, just you and the reality you choose to create. Number 14 is belief just a tool you can pick up and put down. Neuroscientists have identified a phenomenon called the meta-placebo effect, where a placebo pill works even when the person taking it is explicitly told it's just a sugar pill. Their belief in the concept of the placebo is enough to trigger a physiological response. In the 1980s, a group of magicians successfully used H.P. Lovecraft's fictional Cthulhu mythos as a basis for magical rituals, arguing that the imaginative power invested in these entities by millions of readers made them potent enough for magical use. Some chaos magicians will deliberately adopt a worldview they find absurd for a week, like believing the world is run by invisible garden gnomes, simply to practice the skill of shifting belief at will. This is the part that either clicks with you or makes you think this is all complete nonsense. The idea of belief as a tool. In our culture, belief is treated as something sacred. It's who you are, It's your identity. You are a Christian, a Muslim, an atheist, a skeptic. This is your flag, your team jersey. To change it is an act of betrayal or a profound life crisis. Chaos Magick looks at this and says, that's a terrible way to use a powerful tool. Imagine you have a toolbox. Inside you have a hammer, a screwdriver, a wrench, and a saw. If you need to put a nail in a piece of wood, you use the hammer. You believe in the hammer for that task. If you need to tighten a bolt, you put down the hammer and pick up the wrench. You don't have an existential crisis about no longer being a hammer person. You don't start a philosophical debate about the inherent superiority of hammers over wrenches. You just use the right tool for the job. That's how a chaos magician approaches belief systems. Is there a problem in your life that requires order, structure, and a clear hierarchy of power? Maybe the symbolism of ceremonial magic, with its archangels and divine names, is the right tool. It's the wrench. You adopt that belief system. You perform the ritual with full, unwavering conviction that it is absolutely real. Is there another problem that requires a more chaotic, intuitive, emotional approach? Maybe the symbolism of voodoo, with its passionate spirits and earthy connections, is the right tool. It's the hammer, you put down the angels, and you pick up the loa. You enter that world with the same total conviction. The key is the conviction. You cannot do it with a wink and a nod. You have to, for the duration of the work, believe it 100%. You have to become the ceremonial magician. You have to become the voodoo practitioner. You temporarily change the operating system of your mind. Then, when the work is done, you put the tool away. You return to your default state, which is often a state of agnostic, like openness. This is paradigm shifting or paradigm piracy. It's the skill of inhabiting different realities at will. It's profoundly difficult. We are conditioned from birth to have one stable, consistent worldview. Our ego is built on it. To deliberately destabilize that is scary, but it's also incredibly liberating. It shows you that the map is not the territory. The description of the world is not the world itself. And it leads to a very strange conclusion. If you can get results by believing in Jesus, and you can get results by believing in Cthulhu, then what does that say about Jesus and Cthulhu? It suggests that the power isn't coming from them, it's being channeled through them. The symbols, the gods, the spirits. They are the focusing lenses. The power source is your own consciousness. The belief is the switch that turns the power on. This is why Chaos Magick claims reality is a suggestion. Because if you can change your belief and your reality changes accordingly, then the reality you were experiencing was never objective and fixed to begin with. It's just one suggestion out of an infinite number of possibilities. Number 13, can a doodle on a napkin change your life? Austin Osman Spare created his own alphabet of desire, a set of abstract symbols corresponding to fundamental human drives, to construct his magical sentences, believing this bypassed the rational mind's tendency to censor and doubt. The final and most crucial step of a successful sigil ritual involves deliberately and completely forgetting the symbol's meaning, an act magicians call letting go. There's a persistent story in occult circles of a group of artists in the 1990s who launched a sigil into a corporate logo effectively, infecting a global brand with a magical intent. This is where the theory hits the pavement. This is the most common, most practical, and most famous technique to come out of Chaos Magick, the sigil. A sigil is a symbol that represents a specific desire or intent. It's a magical goal compressed into a single image. It's like a seed that you plant in your subconscious mind, which then works to make that desire manifest in the real world. The process is deceptively simple. It's a kind of psychological trick you play on yourself to bypass the part of your brain that always says, that's impossible. Here's how it usually works. First, you state your desire in a clear, positive sentence. Let's say you want to get a new job. You wouldn't write, I don't want to be in my old job anymore. That's focusing on the negative. You would write something like, it is my will to get a new job. The phrasing is important. It's a statement of intent, not a hopeful wish. Second, you take that sentence and you remove all the vowels. So you have to smilchignob. Third, you remove all the repeating letters. Now you have smilchab. Fourth, you take these remaining letters and you combine them into a single abstract glyph, or a doodle. It shouldn't look like the letters anymore. You move them around, you combine them, you twist them until you have a unique, strange-looking symbol that is visually pleasing to you. This is your sigil. It is the signature of your desire, written in a language your conscious mind can no longer read. This is the clever part. You have successfully disguised your intent from your own inner skeptic. Your conscious mind, the censor, looks at the symbol and just sees a weird doodle. It has no idea that it represents TISMY, will to get a new job. But your subconscious mind knows. It was there for the whole process. The fifth and final step is to charge the sigil. This means you have to project it into your subconscious with a burst of energy. To do this, you need to enter a state of gnosis, a non-ordinary state of consciousness where the sensor is temporarily offline. We will talk more about gnosis later, but it can be achieved in many ways. You could reach it through intense meditation, through physical exhaustion from dancing or running, through emotional overload, or through sexual arousal. At the peak of this state, you focus all your attention on the image of the sigil. You burn it into your mind's eye, and then you forget about it, you destroy the paper it was drawn on. You deliberately push the symbol and its meaning out of your mind. This is critical. If you keep thinking about it, you start to worry about it. Is it working? When will it work? Did I do it right? This is what magicians call lust of result. It's the conscious mind interfering, digging up the seed to see if it's sprouting. You have to let it go. You have to trust that the message has been delivered to the subconscious, and it will now do its job. And then, strangely, things start to happen. You might see a job ad you would have normally missed. An old friend might call out of the blue with a lead. You might suddenly have an idea for a new career path. The sigil doesn't make a job appear out of thin air. It works by bending the probabilities of your life. It nudges you and the world around you so that your desired outcome becomes more likely. It rewires you to see the opportunities that were already there. It suggests a new path to reality, and your subconscious starts to follow it. Number 12, how do you turn off your brain to get what you want? The CIA's infamous MKUltra program spent millions of dollars researching altered states of consciousness for interrogation and mind control, inadvertently mapping out many of the same mental territories that magicians explore for spiritual purposes. Brain scans of long-term meditators show a significant deactivation of the default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for self-referential thought, ego, and mind wandering. The Ganzfeld effect, a state of sensory deprivation created by staring at a uniform field of color and listening to white noise, is known to induce hallucinations in altered states, a technique used by both parapsychology researchers and magicians. The engine of Chaos Magick, the thing that makes the sigils fire and the rituals work, is a concept called gnosis. This isn't the same as the Gnosticism of the ancient mystics, which was a whole complex cosmology. In a magical context, gnosis is much simpler. It is a peak, non-ordinary state of consciousness. Think of your normal, everyday mind. It's full of chatter, the monkey mind, as Buddhists call it. It's thinking about your to-do list, what you're having for dinner, that embarrassing thing you said 10 years ago. It's constantly analyzing, judging, and doubting. This part of your mind is the enemy of magic. It's the censor, the guard at the gate of your subconscious. If you try to do magic in this state, the guard will just laugh and say, "That's not possible, go away." To do magic, you need to sneak past the guard. Gnosis is the way you do it. Gnosis is any state of mind where that internal chatter stops, even for a moment. It's a state of no mind, a single pointed focus where the conscious self disappears. In that moment, the gate to the subconscious is wide open. You can plant your sigil, your intent, directly into the deeper, more powerful parts of your mind that actually run the show. Magicians generally divide the paths to gnosis into two categories: inhibitory and excitatory. Inhibitory gnosis is the path of emptying the mind. It's about slowing down. This is the path of meditation, yoga, and deep breathing. You sit quietly, you focus on your breath, and you let thoughts arise and pass away without engaging with them. After a long time, the chatter fades, and you enter a state of deep calm and focus. Sensory deprivation is another inhibitory method. By blocking out light and sound, you starve the conscious mind of input until it shuts up. This path is slow, disciplined, and controlled. Excitatory gnosis is the opposite. It's the path of overloading the mind. It's about speeding up. This is the path of wild dancing, chanting, drumming, intense physical pain or pleasure, emotional overload, or even hyperventilation. The goal is to flood the senses with so much information, so much raw feeling, that the rational mind just short circuits. It can't keep up, it just gives up and gets out of the way. This leaves you in a state of ecstatic, thoughtless presence. This path is fast, chaotic, and often primal. Neither path is considered better than the other. They are just different ways to get to the same place, that moment of pure, focused, thought-free consciousness. This is the mechanical secret behind so much ritual and religion all over the world. The ecstatic dancing of the Sufi mystics, the repetitive chanting of a Catholic rosary, the rhythmic drumming of a shamanic journey, the focused breath of a Zen monk, they are all technologies for inducing gnosis. They are all ways to turn off the brain's sensor so that a connection can be made to something deeper. In Chaos Magick, you don't have to stick to one method, you find what works for you. If meditation works, use it. If dancing to loud music until you collapse works, use that. The point isn't the method, it's the state it produces. Once you can reliably enter that state of gnosis, you have the key. You have the ability to open the door to your own subconscious and, by extension, to the operating system of reality itself. Number 11. Could you build a god in your garage? In 2001, a collective of chaos magicians launched the Pop Magic Project, an online experiment to collectively manifest the character of Bart Simpson into a powerful spiritual entity, or egregore, through focused belief. Some occult theorists argue that corporate logos, like the Nike swoosh or the McDonald's golden arches, function as incredibly powerful servitors on a global scale, fed by the daily attention and energy of billions of people. The Atulpa is a concept from Tibetan Buddhism of a being created purely from thought, which can eventually become so autonomous that even its creator may not be able to control it. Once you accept that belief is a tool, and you can access your subconscious through gnosis, the next logical step gets really weird. If the power is in your consciousness, can you create your own spiritual entities to do your bidding? In Chaos Magick, the answer is yes. These created entities are usually called servitors. A servitor is a thought form. It's a piece of your own consciousness that you split off. Give a specific purpose, a name, a visual form, and set it loose to do a job. It's like a magical robot or a piece of software you designed to run a particular task in the background. It is not a god or a demon that you summon from some external reality. You build it yourself from scratch. The process is similar to creating a sigil, but more complex. First, you define the servitor's purpose very clearly. For example, you want a servitor to help you find lost things. That's its entire reason for existing. Second, you give it a name and a visual form. The name could be a random string of letters. The form could be anything, from a floating sphere of light to a small, ghostly animal. The more specific and unique it is, the better. This gives your subconscious a clear image to latch onto. Third, you create a sigil for the servitor's name. This acts as its on switch or its address. Fourth, you launch it. In a state of gnosis, you visualize the servitor, you focus on its purpose, and you fire its sigil, bringing it to life. You are essentially birthing it from your own mind. Now, this little thought robot is out in the world, running its program. Whenever you lose your keys, you can call its name or visualize its sigil, and it will get to work, nudging your perception so you remember where you put them. Servitors can be designed for anything to promote creativity, to protect your home, to help you be more confident in social situations. The only limit is your imagination. However, there are rules. You have to be specific in your programming. A vaguely defined servitor will be useless. It's also wise to build in a kill switch, a way to reabsorb the entity back into your consciousness once its task is complete, or if it starts to malfunction. Because sometimes they do. A thought form that is fed too much energy or attention can start to develop a will of its own, becoming more like a parasite than a tool. This leads to the bigger, more complex idea of an egregore or a god form. This is what happens when a group of people all focus their belief and energy on the same thought form. Over time, it can grow incredibly powerful and become an autonomous entity in the collective unconscious. The gods of ancient mythologies may have started this way. They were concepts that were fed by the worship of thousands of people for centuries until they took on a life of their own. This is what Chaos Magick suggests. Divinity is not a top-down phenomenon, it's a bottom-up one. We create our gods, and if we can create them, we can create new ones. This is the ultimate expression of reality being a suggestion. It's not just about changing your circumstances, it's about having the audacity to think you can create your own pantheon. Number 10 is reality just a badly edited movie? William S. Burroughs, the famous Beat Generation author, claimed he used the cut-up technique to wage magical war. After being kicked out of a London cafe, he reportedly went home, cut up newspaper articles about the cafe and rearranged them with stories of disaster, and then cursed the location, which soon after suffered a series of unfortunate events and closed down. The musician David Bowie used the cut-up technique extensively for his lyrics during his Berlin period, producing some of his most acclaimed and surreal work. Brion Gysin, the artist who developed the technique with Burroughs, believed it was a way to storm the citadels of the word, breaking the linear, controlling nature of language, and revealing the hidden messages underneath. Language shapes our reality. The words we use, the way we structure sentences, the stories we tell ourselves, these things create the tracks that our thoughts run on. We think we are in control of our language, but most of the time, language is in control of us. It forces us into linear cause and effect thinking. It limits what we can even conceive of. So, what happens if you break the language? What happens if you take reality's script, cut it into pieces, and shuffle it? This is the magical theory behind the cut-up technique developed by artist Brion Gysin and writer William S. Burroughs in the 1950s. On the surface, it's a simple, artistic method. You take a page of text, cut it into fourths, and rearrange the pieces. The new, jumbled text creates strange, poetic, and often prophetic new sentences. But Burroughs and Gysin saw it as something much more. They saw it as a practical tool for magic. The universe in this view is constantly sending us messages, but our linear, rational minds filter most of them out. We are stuck in a single, boring story. The cut-up technique is a way to scramble that filter. It's a form of deliberate chaos. By randomly juxtaposing words and ideas, you break your own habitual thought patterns. You force your mind to make new connections. You start to see the synchronicities and patterns that were there all along, hidden beneath the surface of the official story. In a magical context, you can use this for divination. Instead of tarot cards, you can cut up a newspaper and see what messages emerge. You can use it to find a name for a servitor or a line for a spell, but you can also use it for reality hacking. Burroughs believed that reality was a pre-recorded film and you could edit it by cutting up and rearranging the script. This is what he claimed to have done with the cafe. He took the existing reality of the cafe and spliced it with a new reality disaster. By physically cutting and pasting the words, he believed he was performing an operation on the fabric of reality itself. This idea is central to the Chaos Magick worldview. Our reality is a story, a consensus trance. We've all agreed to read the same script. The media, our education, our culture, they all reinforce this one story. A magician is someone who realizes they have editing rights. The cut-up technique is a practical, if strange, way to start exercising those rights. It treats reality as information, and all information can be deconstructed, remixed, and rebroadcast. You can do it with more than just text. You can do it with images, a collage. You can do it with sound audio sampling. This is about breaking down the world you take for granted. You look at a newspaper and you see the news. A magician using the cut-up technique sees a data stream that can be hacked. You listen to a song and you hear a melody. The magician hears raw emotional frequencies that can be isolated and repurposed. It's a declaration that the meaning we find in the world is not inherent, it's imposed. And if it's imposed, it can be changed. By scrambling the code of everyday life, you not only reveal its arbitrary nature, but you also create openings where you can insert your own code, your own suggestions for a new reality. Number 9, who was the man who inspired it all? As a young boy, Austin Osman Spare claimed he was initiated into a form of witchcraft by an elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson, who he believed was descended from a line of Salem witches. During World War I, Spare was conscripted and served as an official war artist, producing stark and haunting images of the conflict. His unique style of automatic drawing and sigil Like, forms predated the Surrealist movement by several years, yet he was largely ignored by the art establishment and died in poverty and obscurity in 1956. You can't talk about Chaos Magick without talking about Austin Osman Spare. He is the source code. While he never used the term Chaos Magick himself, his ideas and techniques form its entire foundation. He was an artist, a mystic, and a true original who was decades ahead of his time. Spare was born in London in 1886. From a young age, he was a phenomenal draftsman. He won a scholarship to the Royal College of Art, and by his late teens was being hailed as a new genius of the art world. He held successful exhibitions and was praised by critics. He was on a path to fame and fortune. But Spare was not interested in the art establishment. He was interested in something much deeper and stranger. He was drawn to the occult, to magic, to the hidden corners of the human mind. He became briefly involved with Aleister Crowley's magical orders, but found them too dogmatic and theatrical for his tastes. Spare was not interested in complex rituals and ancient hierarchies. He was a magical anarchist. He turned his back on the mainstream art world and began to develop his own intensely personal system of magic. He lived in poverty in the working-class boroughs of South London, filling notebooks with his philosophical ideas and his strange, beautiful, and often disturbing artwork. His core ideas were revolutionary. He believed that the conscious mind, with its ego and its constant doubt, was the main obstacle to magic. You know, the real power, he said, lay in the subconscious. He developed a sentient symbolism, a way of communicating directly with this deeper self. This is where his two most famous contributions come from: the alphabet of desire and the method of sigils. He believed that our deepest desires, when translated into a special symbolic language and projected into the subconscious, had the power to reshape our reality. He also pioneered a concept he called the death posture. This was his method for achieving gnosis. It was a physically excruciating posture that, when held, would cause the mind to blank out from the sheer strain. In that moment of mental silence, he would release his sigil. It was a raw, primal, and deeply physical approach to magic, a far cry from the refined ceremonies of his contemporaries. Spare's philosophy was one of radical self-reliance. He wrote about the Kia, his term for the primal, universal consciousness that is our true nature, and the zoos, the body and mind that are its vehicle. His whole system was about uniting these two, about becoming a complete being. He rejected all external gods and masters. For Spare, you were your own god, your own savior, your own source of power. For most of his life, he was a forgotten man. His books were self-published in tiny editions. His art was sold for a few pounds from his cluttered apartment. It was only in the 1970s, long after his death, that a new generation of occultists rediscovered his work. People like Peter J. Carroll and Ray Sherwin saw the genius in Spare's stripped-down, results-oriented approach. They took his core concepts, updated them with ideas from modern science and psychology, and created the system that would become known as Chaos Magick. Spare provided the proof of concept. He was the living example of a magician who threw out all the rulebooks and built a new system from the ground up, based on nothing but his own experience and his own powerful, unique vision. He showed that you didn't need anyone's permission to be a magician. Number 8, are you just a robot running on 8 different programs? The 8-circuit model of consciousness was first proposed by Timothy Leary in the 1960s as a way to understand the effects of psychedelic drugs, but it was later expanded into a full map of human consciousness by the writer Robert Anton Wilson. Wilson argued that most of human society operates exclusively on the first 4 larval circuits, and that our social institutions are designed to prevent us from activating the higher circuits. According to the model, experiences like near-death experiences or alien abductions could be explained as spontaneous and often confusing activations of the higher, post-terrestrial circuits. If you're going to rewrite the software of reality, you need a map of the computer you're using. For many chaos magicians, one of the most useful maps is the 8-circuit model of consciousness. It's not a scientific fact, it's a model, a tool for thinking, and it's a very powerful one. The model suggests that our consciousness, our mind, is not one single thing. It's a series of 8 potential circuits or systems that have evolved over time. Each circuit has its own worldview, its own priorities, and its own imprint of reality. The first 4 circuits are the terrestrial circuits. They deal with survival and life on this planet. The first is the biosurvival circuit. This is the most basic part of your brain, the reptilian core. It's concerned with one thing: safety. Is this thing safe or dangerous? Should I approach it or run from it? It was the first circuit imprinted on you when you were an infant, a helpless blob of needs. The second is the emotional territorial circuit. This is the mammalian brain. It's all about power and status. Who's the alpha? Who's the submissive one? It's the circuit of ego, of pride, of territorial disputes. This circuit gets imprinted in the toddler stage when you learn to walk and compete for dominance. The third is the symbolic conceptual circuit. This is the human mind, the neocortex. It handles language, logic, maps, and symbols. It allows you to think, to reason, and to make sense of the world. It's imprinted when you start learning language and going to school. The fourth is the socio-sexual circuit. This is the tribal circuit. It's concerned with morality, rules, social roles, and passing on your genes. It's the good citizen circuit. It's imprinted during puberty and your first social and sexual experiences. Well, Robert Anton Wilson believed that most people never get past these first 4 circuits. They live their whole lives as what he called larval robots, running these basic survival programs over and over. But the model proposes 4 more higher circuits. These are future evolutionary circuits, mostly dormant in the average person, but accessible through techniques like meditation, yoga, psychedelics, or magic. The 5th is the neurosomatic circuit. This is the circuit of bliss, of ecstatic states. It's when the mind becomes aware of the body in a new way, leading to feelings of euphoria and well-being. This is the circuit activated by deep meditation or tantric practices. The 6th is the neurogenetic circuit. This is the circuit of the collective unconscious, the DNA memory. When this is active, you can have experiences that feel like past lives or access archetypal information from the entire history of life on Earth. The 7th is the meta-programming circuit. This is the magician's circuit. It's the realization that all the other circuits are just programs, just imprints. When this circuit is active, you can consciously rewrite your own reality tunnels. You can paradigm shift, you can change your own brain. The 8th is the quantum non-local circuit. This is the final, most mysterious circuit. It's the consciousness that transcends the individual brain and body altogether, connecting with the universe on a quantum level. This is the circuit of enlightenment, of cosmic consciousness. For a chaos magician, this model is a practical guide. It shows you what you're working with. Magic happens when you learn to activate the 7th circuit and use it to reprogram the first 4. You can use it to change a 1st circuit fear imprint, or a 2nd circuit ego problem, or a 4th circuit guilt complex. It provides a language for what you are actually doing when you do magic. You are not just wishing for things. You are engaging in a conscious act of neurological self-editing. Number 7, how do you break the rules of your own mind? The modern religion of Discordianism, founded in the late 1950s and based on the worship of Eris, the Greek goddess of chaos, is a prime example of a functioning magical paradigm that is also a giant, elaborate joke. One common chaos magic exercise is to spend a day acting as if a chosen belief is true. For example, spending a day living as if you are a millionaire, not by spending money, but by adopting the mindset and confidence that would come with it. Some practitioners will even adopt the belief system of a group they despise for a short period as an extreme exercise in mental flexibility and to understand how that reality tunnel is constructed. So you have the tools, you know about belief shifting, sigils, gnosis. How do you practice? How do you get good at this? The answer is a technique that could be called paradigm piracy. Your current worldview, the one you think of as reality, is a paradigm. It's a set of rules, assumptions, and beliefs that you operate under. For most people, this paradigm is invisible. It's like water to a fish. They don't even know it's there. A magician is someone who learns to see the water, and paradigm piracy is the practice of deliberately jumping into different fish bowls to see what the water is like over there. It's one thing to say belief is a tool. It's another thing to live it. paradigm piracy is the training ground? It's about deliberately adopting a belief system, especially one you find foreign or even ridiculous, and living within it for a set period of time. Not to convert, but to learn. Let's say you are a rational materialist skeptic. A paradigm piracy experiment for you might be to spend a week living as if astrology is 100% real. You would read your horoscope every day. You would interpret events in your life through an astrological lens. You would talk about Mercury being in retrograde. You would do this with complete sincerity, without irony. The goal is to fully inhabit that reality tunnel. What happens when you do this? A few things. First, you start to notice how that belief system filters reality. You'll see confirmations of your horoscope everywhere. You'll start to see how planetary movements seem to correlate with your moods. Your confirmation bias will go into overdrive for the new paradigm. Second, you'll learn that you can actually function, and maybe even thrive, inside a completely different operating system. The world doesn't fall apart. You just experience it differently. Third, and most importantly, when you go back to your original paradigm of scientific materialism, you will no longer see it as the truth. You will see it as just another paradigm. A useful one, a powerful one, but not the only one. You've seen behind the curtain. You've proven to yourself through direct experience that reality is suggestible. This is a profoundly destabilizing practice. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes a strong sense of self to be able to put on different masks without forgetting your own face. But it is the core skill of the Chaos Magician, the ability to change your mind, literally. The Discordian movement is a fantastic example of this. It's a religion centered on Eris, goddess of chaos. Its holy book, the Principia Discordia, is full of jokes, contradictions, and absurdity. Is it a real religion or a parody? The answer is both. It's a joke so serious that it becomes a religion. It's a paradigm that uses humor to break down other, more rigid paradigms. By worshiping chaos, Discordians learn not to fear it. They learn to surf it. Paradigm piracy is the ultimate freedom. It's the declaration that you are not your beliefs. You are the one who chooses the beliefs. It's the process of waking up from the consensus trance and realizing you can change the channel anytime you want. Number 6, does it matter if it's real as long as it works? Chaos magic is sometimes referred to as results-based sorcery, a term that highlights its complete lack of interest in the metaphysical or moral justification for a practice, focusing solely on its effectiveness. A chaos magician might create a ritual that combines a Catholic prayer, a yoga posture, a sigil drawn in their own blood, and the theme song from a children's cartoon if they believe that specific combination will produce the desired result. Unlike most magical traditions, there is no book of the law or central sacred text in chaos magic. The only scripture is the magician's own diary, which records what worked and what didn't. This is the philosophical core of chaos magic. It is the most pragmatic, and for some, the most soulless approach to magic ever devised. It has one single, brutal standard for judging any technique, any ritual, any belief. Did it work? If the answer is yes, it is valid. If the answer is no, it is useless. That's it. There is no other consideration. It doesn't matter if the ritual is historically accurate. It doesn't matter if it's morally good or evil. It doesn't matter if it's aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't matter if it comes from a 3,000-year-old tradition or if you made it up 5 minutes ago in the shower. All that matters is results. This is a radical departure from almost every other spiritual or magical system on Earth. Most systems are built on dogma. You must perform the ritual in this exact way. You must say these exact words. You must believe in these specific gods. You must follow these moral precepts. The dogma is the source of the power. Chaos magic says the exact opposite. The dogma is a cage. It's a limitation. The power doesn't come from the ritual. The ritual is just a technique for focusing the power that is already inside you. Therefore, you should use whatever ritual works best for you. This is why chaos magic looks so eclectic and, to outsiders, so incoherent. It's a pick and mix, or meta system. A chaos magician is a magical magpie taking the shiniest, most effective bits from any and every tradition they can find. They might use the planetary hours from astrology to time their rituals. They might use the chakra system from Hinduism to work on their energy. They might use the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram from the Golden Dawn tradition to clear a space. They might use a sigil method inspired by Austin Osman Spare. They might call upon a god from ancient Egypt. They are not a Golden Dawn magician or a Hindu or an astrologer. They are a results-based sorcerer using a specific tool from that system's toolbox because it has been shown to be effective for a particular job. This pragmatism extends to the big question. Is any of this real? Is there really a spirit named Buer? Is Jupiter's influence actually a thing? The Chaos Magician's answer is it doesn't matter. What matters is that if you act as if Buer is real and you summon him correctly, you might get results related to healing. If you act as if Jupiter's influence is real and you do a ritual on a Thursday, you might get results related to wealth. The focus is on the as if. This is the pragmatic use of belief. It doesn't get bogged down in unprovable metaphysical claims. It treats the entire universe of gods, spirits, and magical laws as a set of symbols and processes that can be manipulated to create effects in the physical world. It might all be happening inside your head. It might be complex psychology. It might be that you are tapping into objective external forces. The why is less important than the how. This is liberating, but it can also be unsettling. It removes all the comfort of dogma. There is no priest to tell you you're doing it right. There is no holy book to consult. There is only you, your goal, and the raw, unfiltered feedback of reality. If your spell works, you did it right. If it doesn't, you did it wrong. Go back to your diary, figure out why, and try again. It's the scientific method applied to the supernatural. Number 5, why would a magician worship a rubber chicken? The Bananadine ritual, first published in the Principia Discordia, involves peeling a banana at midnight while chanting as a deliberately absurd and humorous way to induce a mild altered state of consciousness through focused silliness. Peter Carroll, one of the founders of Chaos Magick, has stated that an unshakable sense of humor is the most important quality for any magician, as it prevents the ego inflation and self-importance that can lead to delusion. A popular Chaos Magick saying is, "Nothing is true, everything is permitted," except for taking this saying too seriously. Magic has a reputation for being incredibly serious. Think of the grim-faced sorcerer in his dark robes, chanting menacingly in a circle of skulls. Chaos Magick takes one look at that stereotype and starts laughing. Humor is not just an optional extra in this system, it's a core technique. It's a weapon. Why? Because nothing destroys a rigid belief system faster than laughter. The ego loves to be serious. It loves to feel important. It loves to build up elaborate, grandiose systems and then defend them to the death. This state of mind is called magus-itis in Chaos Magick circles. It's the disease of the magician who starts to believe their own hype, who thinks they are a powerful, all-knowing master of the universe. This is the fastest path to self-delusion and failure. Laughter is the cure. Laughter is a form of gnosis. A genuine belly-shaking laugh is a moment of pure, thought-free consciousness. In that moment, your ego disappears. You can't be laughing your head off and be worried about your self-image at the same time. It's laughter short-circuits the sensor. It breaks patterns. It's an excitatory path to an altered state. This is why so much of Chaos Magick culture is steeped in humor, absurdity, and practical jokes. The Discordian movement is the most obvious example. It's a whole magical paradigm built on the cosmic punchline. By treating the goddess of chaos as a real and hilarious figure, Discordians learn to embrace the unpredictable and nonsensical nature of life. They learn to find the humor in disaster. This use of humor goes into ritual practice as well. A chaos magician might deliberately include a ridiculous element in an otherwise serious ritual. They might use a rubber chicken as a magical wand or chant the lyrics to a pop song. Why? To break the tension, to prevent themselves from getting too attached to the outcome, from falling into that lust of result that kills magic. By making the ritual a bit silly, they remind themselves not to take it, or themselves too seriously. It keeps the ego in check. It's also a powerful way to deconstruct reality. The world we live in is built on serious, important things. Money, Politics, religion, social status. These are the things that have power over us. When you can look at these things and laugh at their inherent absurdity, you take that power back. You see them for what they are: elaborate games, consensus hallucinations. A magician who can't laugh at themselves is a danger to themselves. They are a magician who has started to confuse the map with the territory, the symbol with the thing it represents. They have become trapped in one of their own belief systems. The laughing magician, however, remains free. They can move between paradigms, use any tool in the box, and never get stuck. Humor is the ultimate reality hacking tool. It's the acid that dissolves dogma. It's the skeleton key that unlocks the cages of belief. If reality is just a suggestion, then humor is the ability to hear that suggestion and reply, "Are you serious?" That's the best you've got. Number 4, what happens when the spell fails? The term lust of result, often cited as the primary cause of magical failure, describes the state of anxious craving and constant checking for results, which engages the conscious mind and effectively cancels the message sent to the subconscious. In some magical diaries, magicians will note that a failed spell was followed by a completely unexpected and much better outcome, suggesting that the subconscious or the universe has a smarter way of fulfilling the core intent. A common technique for dealing with failure is banishing. The magician performs a ritual to cleanse themselves of the failure, forget it completely, and move on to the next project without carrying any baggage. So far, this all sounds great. You doodle a sigil, enter a trance, and get what you want. But what about when it doesn't work? What happens when you do the ritual for a new job and you stay unemployed? What happens when you launch a servitor to find your lost wallet and it stays lost? Failure is a part of magic, just like it's a part of everything else. A chaos magician doesn't see failure as a sign that magic isn't real. They see it as a data point, it's feedback. The system is telling you that something in your process was wrong. The pragmatism of chaos magic means that failure is just as valuable as success because it teaches you what not to do. There are a few common reasons for failure. The biggest one is called lust of result. This is the killer of spells. You do the sigil, you do the ritual, and you're supposed to forget about it. But you can't, you're too desperate, you need that job. So you keep thinking about it. Is it working? I hope it's working. I really need it to work. Every time you do this, you are pulling the signal back out of the subconscious and into the conscious mind. You are engaging the sensor. You are essentially telling the universe, I don't have this thing, over and over again. You are reinforcing the reality of lack, not the reality of attainment. Forgetting is the hardest part of the process, and it's where most people fail. Another common reason is a poorly defined intent. If your goal is vague, the result will be vague or non-existent. I want to be happy is a terrible magical goal. What does happy even mean? I want to receive an unexpected check for $500 this week is a much better goal. It's specific, measurable, and time-bound. Sometimes the failure is due to a conflict with your own deep-seated beliefs. If you are doing a spell for wealth, but deep down you believe that money is the root of all evil, or that you don't deserve to be rich, your subconscious is going to reject the spell. You have a conflict in your own internal programming. In this case, the magical work isn't about getting the money, it's about changing that underlying belief first. And sometimes a spell just doesn't work, and you don't know why. The variables are too complex. The opposition is too strong. The universe has other plans. The Chaos Magician's response to failure is not to give up. It's to troubleshoot. They go back to their magical diary. What was my intent? Was it clear? How was my gnosis? Was I really in the zone, or was I distracted? Did I successfully forget about it afterwards, or was I lusting for result? Was there a belief conflict I overlooked? Failure forces you to be honest with yourself. It makes you a better magician. It's the quality control for your practice. Anyone can have a lucky success. But to get consistent results, you have to understand why you fail. This approach strips away the romance of magic and replaces it with a kind of engineering mindset. It's not about divine favor or mystical talent. It's about a process. If the process doesn't work, you debug it, you tweak it, and you run it again. Every failure is just one step closer to figuring out what actually works. Number 3, can you actually go crazy doing this stuff? The psychologist Carl Jung wrote extensively about the inflation that can occur when the ego identifies with the archetypes of the collective unconscious, a state that mirrors the magical condition of magus-itis and can lead to a dangerous messianic complex. Apophenia is the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. While this is a useful skill for a magician seeing synchronicities, in an uncontrolled state, it is a symptom of psychosis. Some historical occultists like Aleister Crowley had lives marked by personal turmoil and broken relationships, serving as cautionary tales about the potential for magical practice to unbalance a personality if not grounded in psychological stability. Let's be very direct about this. Yes, you can. Chaos magic is powerful because it works directly on your consciousness. It is a system for deliberately deconstructing and rebuilding your own mind. This is psychological dynamite. If you don't know what you are doing, you can do serious damage. The biggest risk is losing your grounding. The whole point is to blur the line between fantasy and reality, to treat belief as fluid, to interact with entities that you yourself have created. If you don't have a strong, stable ego to begin with, you can easily get lost. You can start to lose the ability to tell the difference between a servitor you created and a real person. You can get trapped in one of your paradigms and not be able to find your way back. This is why traditional magical systems had so many safeguards, so much training, and such long initiation periods. They were designed to build up a student's psychological strength before they were given the keys to the kingdom. Chaos magic throws out most of those safeguards. It gives you the dynamite on day one and assumes you're smart enough not to blow yourself up. One of the main dangers is magus-itis, the inflation of the ego. It's easy, when you have a few successes, to start believing you are an all-powerful master of the universe. You start to feel special, chosen. This is a trap. It cuts you off from honest self-assessment and leads to delusion. A magician with an inflated ego is no longer testing reality. They are just forcing reality to fit their own narrative, ignoring all evidence to the contrary. This is the path to becoming a charismatic but ultimately hollow guru, or just a person who has lost touch with the real world. Another danger is paranoia. When you start looking for connections and synchronicities everywhere, you will find them. That's how the brain works. This can be a useful tool, but if it goes unchecked, it can curdle into paranoia. You start to see conspiracies everywhere. You believe other magicians are attacking you with curses. Every random event becomes part of some grand, invisible war. The practice of evoking entities, even ones you create yourself, is also risky. You are deliberately creating partitioned off sections of your own mind and giving them autonomy. This is a powerful technique, but it can also lead to a fragmentation of the personality if not managed carefully. The line between a servitor and a symptom of dissociative identity disorder can be a fine one. So how do you stay sane? The most important tool is a strong connection to the mundane world. Have a job, pay your bills, do your laundry, spend time with friends who have no interest in magic. These things keep you grounded. They are the anchor that stops you from drifting off into your own private universe. Keeping a detailed, honest magical diary is also crucial. It forces you to record your failures as well as your successes. It keeps you honest. And finally, a sense of humor. As we've discussed, the ability to laugh at yourself, at your successes, at your failures, at the entire cosmic game is the ultimate sanity-preserving tool. Chaos magic is not a safe hobby, it's a form of experimental psychology where you are the only test subject. It requires self-awareness, discipline, and a good dose of skepticism. Without these, you are not hacking reality, you are just hacking your own sanity. Number 2 isn't this, just the placebo effect in a spooky hat. Studies on the placebo effect have shown it can genuinely trigger the release of endogenous opioids. The body's natural painkillers shrink tumors and produce measurable physiological changes, all based on the patient's belief in a treatment. Confirmation bias is a well-documented cognitive bias where people unconsciously seek out, interpret, and recall information in a way that confirms their pre-existing beliefs. The Wizard of Oz effect in technology describes a situation where a user believes they are interacting with an autonomous system, but it's actually being controlled by a human in magic. The wizard is the magician's own subconscious mind. This is the big, obvious, rational question. You're talking about belief changing reality. You're talking about rituals producing results. Isn't this just psychology dressed up in occult robes? Isn't it all just a combination of the placebo effect, confirmation bias, and self-fulfilling prophecies? The Chaos Magician's honest answer to this question is yes. So what? This is perhaps the most mind-bending aspect of the whole system. Chaos Magick does not deny the psychological explanation. In many ways, it embraces it. It sees psychology as a description of the mechanism through which magic works. Let's take the placebo effect. You are given a sugar pill and told it's a powerful new drug. You believe it, and your body heals itself. That is, by any definition, a magical act. You have changed your physical reality using nothing but your belief. The doctor who gave you the pill was the magician, the pill was the ritual object, and your belief was the spell. What does it matter that we can label it placebo? The result is the same. The Chaos Magician just wants to be able to do it on purpose without needing the doctor to lie to them. They want to be able to prescribe their own placebos. What about confirmation bias? You do a spell for money and then you suddenly notice a $10 bill on the street. The skeptic says, you wouldn't notice that anyway, you were just primed to look for it. The Chaos Magician says, exactly, the spell worked. It primed me to notice the opportunity that was already there. What's the difference? The end result is that you are $10 richer. The goal of the magic was not to make money materialize out of thin air, but to change your reality so that you acquired more money. The spell worked by manipulating your own perception. The Chaos Magician doesn't see it's all in your head as a dismissal. They see it as a statement of incredible power. Your head is the control room. If you can change what's happening in your head, you can change your experience of reality. And since your experience of reality is the only reality you will ever know, you have, for all practical purposes, changed reality. This is why Chaos Magick is so difficult for both true believers and hardened skeptics to understand. The true believer wants the magic to be real in an external, supernatural sense. They want the gods and spirits to be objectively real beings. The skeptic wants to dismiss the entire thing as self-delusion. The Chaos Magician walks a razor's edge between these two positions. They take a position of radical pragmatism. They say, let's treat the spirits as real and see what happens. Let's treat the ritual as effective and see what happens. They are willing to use the language of the supernatural because it's a powerful and effective language for communicating with the subconscious. The subconscious doesn't respond well to dry clinical language. It responds to myths, symbols, and drama. So, is it all just psychology? Maybe. But if just psychology can help you get a new job, find a lost object, or break a lifelong bad habit, then just psychology is the most powerful form of magic there is. Chaos Magick is simply the art of weaponizing psychology, of taking these known quirks of the human mind and using them deliberately with intent to create change. It doesn't matter if you call the operator, the universe, or your subconscious. What matters is knowing how to make the call. Number one, if reality is a suggestion, who is suggesting it? Quantum physics has demonstrated through experiments like the double-slit experiment that the act of observing a particle fundamentally changes its state, suggesting that consciousness is not a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in creating it. The concept of a consensus reality is the shared set of beliefs and assumptions that a society agrees upon to function. What we call objective reality is often just a very large and stable consensus. Throughout history, individuals and small groups who have successfully introduced a new suggestion, a new religion, a new scientific theory, a new political idea, have literally changed the world. We arrive at the final question. It's the one that sits behind all of this. If our personal reality is suggestible, if we can change our experience of the world by changing our beliefs, what does that mean about the world itself? It means that the hard, solid, objective reality we take for granted is much more like a dream than we are comfortable admitting. It's a dream that we are all having together, a consensus trance. We have all unconsciously agreed to a certain set of rules. The sky is blue, gravity pulls things down. You have to work to earn money. These are the powerful suggestions that form the bedrock of our shared world. Most people never question these suggestions. They are the laws of the universe. The magician, the Chaos Magician, is someone who starts to suspect that they are not laws, but simply very strong habits. They are the default settings of reality, and any setting can be changed if you have administrator access. The practice of magic, then, is the practice of learning how to gain that access. Every successful sigil, every paradigm shift, every moment of gnosis is a small proof that the default settings are not absolute. It's a piece of evidence that reality is, at its core, responsive to consciousness. So who is doing the suggesting? The first answer is everyone. We are all constantly broadcasting our beliefs, our assumptions, our fears, and our desires into the shared dream. The consensus reality is the average of all these broadcasts. It's a powerful, sluggish thing held in place by the beliefs of billions of people. This is why changing the world is so hard. You are not just fighting against institutions, you are fighting against the collective belief of humanity. The second, more personal answer is you are. You are suggesting your own reality to yourself every second of every day. Your beliefs, your internal monologue, the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what is possible for you, these are the suggestions that create the world you experience. Most people do this unconsciously. They are simply repeating the suggestions that were given to them by their parents, their culture, their education. They are living in a second-hand reality. The path of chaos magic is the process of waking up within that dream. It's the realization that you are not just a character in the story, you are also one of the authors. It's about taking conscious control of the suggestions you are feeding yourself. It's about learning to write your own script. This is an awesome and terrifying responsibility. It means there are no excuses. If your life is not what you want it to be, it's because you are running the wrong software, believing the wrong story. You have the power to change it, but it requires work. It requires tearing down the certainties you have built your life on. It requires the courage to face the chaos that lies beneath the orderly surface of things. The ultimate conclusion is not that reality isn't real. It's that reality is more real than you thought. Right? It's not a fixed, dead, mechanical thing. It's a living, breathing, responsive thing. It's a conversation, and chaos magic is simply the discovery that you can have a say in that conversation. You can make a suggestion, and if you make it with enough focus, with enough belief, with enough will, you might be surprised to find that reality is listening.